Hello everybody, and welcome to the new and improved Calamity lore series here on YouTube. I'm Zele, here to be your assistant through the process of learning Calamity lore as a whole. This episode shall contain the jungle and all related affairs. Here's a couple things I'm going to cover. Alright, the jungle is one of the most lore relevant biomes, at least in my eyes. It may soon be replaced with the Sunken Sea when Sunken Sea Overhaul comes out, but I do not care. So, first, let's establish what kind of place the jungle is. Here's how Draydon thinks of it.
It would not be a stretch to call the jungle the hub of this planet. All is centered around it, and none know not of it. It brings me no small amount of unease to see the uncomfortable, raw forms of the living beings who pass through on their journeys above.
Continued later with,
Few travel down here, with far fewer making the expedition to reach as far down as this research station.
So, at least from Draydon's point of view, depending on your interpretation of the phase hub of this planet, he could either mean a highly populated area or just one of high interest for the growth of science or any other biological prominence. And one of those is far more Draydon coded than the other. I'll leave you to figure that one out by yourself. We also know a bit about the people who inhabited the jungle in the past, though not much about who lives there now.
In the past, entire villages would spring up around these grand hives, peacefully harvesting their share of the honey and protecting them from danger.
Continued with,
Taking their mastery of agriculture to new heights, the jungle settlers bred a special sprout. Through ritual blessing of the soil, it was fed legions of souls. Elders of the village wished to bring forth a new age of botanical prosperity.
We also see in-game a structure called the Vernal Pass, which holds large pink bulbs that spawn Plantera. This is currently the most likely place, and it is very likely that this is the place that the Plantera lore item is mentioning. But by the time we stumble upon it in-game, it appears very much abandoned. I've tried to theorize if the jungle settlers are followers or worshippers of Silva, the goddess of life, just as the druids are, but I have found no correlation. Having searched for links in the items that generate in the Vernal Pass, none of them overlap with any of the abyss layers of which Silva occupies. It could still be a possibility, but I find it unlikely. Editor's note, upon further research, the perennial slime bestiary entry actually implies the existence of a link between Silva and the jungle settlers. These slimes have seized a small amount of the goddess of life's essence. We know that perennial ore appeared after Plantera is defeated from this specific line when she dies, and the fact that it generates in-game. Energized plant matter has formed in the underground. But I don't actually know if that was caused by Plantera's death, or simply game mechanics for progression convenience. I don't really see any other links between Plantera and Perennial, literally, technically, so they don't have to be linked. The spawn message for the ore doesn't mention souls, which I would imagine it would, having Plantera be intertwined with Souls herself, very much so. There's also a strange item placed very purposefully in one of the chests, that being the Feller of Evergreens, which I can find no lore relevance for, but apparently devs really want to note it as important, at least that's what Suki says. Lastly, the jungle is also home... No, let's go back there. The Feller of Evergreens may be a reference to Braylor's axe, which would give it a link directly to Silva, but still, we cannot say for certain until we see an actual link. Lastly, the jungle is also home to the lizards, who don't have much written about them besides some hate from Yaren, unless, of course, I'm missing some random NPC dialogue explaining it in game. I don't really read NPC dialogue, unfortunately, because I'm lazy and I don't have it pretty much anywhere. Anyway.
What a sad, piteous thing. Truly a mockery in every sense of the word. The lizards were abandoned by their deity long ago. They set upon creating the idol as a replacement. The result is an amalgamation of the concepts and themes of many gods, prominently the heat of the sun. I see no need to intervene in affairs beneath me and my people.
This really doesn't give us as much insight into lizards as it does to Yarim, which is very unfortunate because lizards actually intrigue me very much. But using all this information, we can essentially find that the jungle is primarily uninhabited as of now, as of when the player finds it, especially after the rise of the plague. First, let's clarify, the point in progression the plague appears in-game is, to my knowledge, not canon, by no means. Having probably started well before the player was even in the picture, the place in progression it appears in-game is likely it's only in that stage of progression because they had to make something cause the plague in-game, or else you would just start with the plague. That's the only reason that it spawns at the time that it does, to my knowledge. Let's start with the origin of the plague from two very differing perspectives. First, let's hear from the creator theirself.
I have taken to using this isolation to develop advanced nanotechnology for use in controlling the minds of biologicals. I yearn for it to be capable of spreading from organism to organism, a perfect blend of a virus and nanotechnology.
This is the beginning of the infection of the jungle, but it really is only just the beginning.
Continued experiments have led to significant results. With a mechanically modified queen bee as a primary host, it may act as the core of a hive mind of those my plague has touched. However, Yarm was outraged upon learning of my experiments here, and decried them as inhumane. After a brief verbal conflict, he wordlessly left, and I have not heard from him since.
There are actually a lot more fascinating statements made by Dradon that we'll get into in a bit, but first, let's see the God-Seeker's point of view on this conflict.
Without consulting me, Dradon sought to weaponize the already well-organized jungle bees. When he revealed his finished project, I was enraged. Enslaving the bees was despicable. Dradon cared little for my outrage and returned to his other work without further incident. From that point on, I stopped making requests of Dradon. He had shown me his true colors.
This marks a turning point in the relationship of Dradon and Yarm, and they only kiss and make up later when Yarm asks for an armor enhancement. But there's so much more about the plague to cover, so get ready. Here we go.
Before you ask, I am aware that my nanomachines currently plague the jungle. I created a failsafe in case this happened, and have no intent of causing uncontrollable mass destruction. If it begins to threaten biodiversity or otherwise encroach upon my learning of Terraria, I will deactivate it myself.
This is not exactly comforting.
I aim to create a weapon which could control, subdue, or eliminate any organic entity, given enough time. I was well aware of the tenacity and adaptability of life, and quickly realized such a weapon would itself need to be alive to overpower and dominate any known organism. It was through my observation of the growth of such powerful beings, however, that I had an epiphany. There was no need for my machinery to surpass organic life, not when that very same life could be improved upon and then harnessed as a tool or weapon.
So the purpose of the plague was originally to grant Dradon control over biological life forms, but soon it shifted slightly, while still being, in essence, a way to control biological life forms. Dradon says this.
I saw then the banality of my efforts to simply control and replace life. I stood before the near limitless possibilities of enhancing it further.
So Dradon now plans not only to control life, but to make it better in some way. This is, well, both great for Dradon and not great for a lot of the rest of the world. Most of the rest of the plague inquiry is another account of Yarm discovering the plague, and nitty-gritty details on why Dradon chose a queen bee to infect first. But those are unnecessary details you don't need me to tell you. The rest of the plague lore is tidbits here and there and bestiary entries, and most of it is repeated explanation of how the plague spreads. If you want to find out more about specific enemies, go to the Calamity lore document linked in the description, use Control F and search Plague. This should get you everything you need. Now, there are some other smaller notes about the jungle, but most of them have been covered here. I would like to mention there are at least 3 accounts from Draydon alone where he talks about the conflict between him and Yarim, though each of them is pretty much the same in essence, just in different places. In one of them, I believe he says,
"Oh, I don't really care because I could already do all this stuff without Draydon or without Yarim anymore, so I didn't really mind."
It's basically saying the same thing in every single one. A quick summary of literally every plague enemy is basically this. You wouldn't expect that this creature would be good at spreading the plague because of blank factor, but this other blank factor causes it to be very highly efficient at spreading the plague, even more than most of the other plague enemies. It says that on pretty much every single plague enemy. This one was born with a plague. It was very efficient at spreading the plague. This one blows up when it dies. You might think that it might not be great at spreading the plague, but because it blows up when it dies, it spreads the plague all over the place. This one has the plague inside of its nervous system, so it was pretty easy to infect, and it's pretty good at spreading the plague. This one can inject the plague directly into people. Pretty good at spreading the plague. That's literally every single one. I find that kind of funny. I really do want to know what the link between Silva and the jungle settlers is, because initially one could disregard it, and then one could say, wait, no, but this specific thing links them. But then you can go again and say, okay, but this specific thing unlinks them. So I still don't know whether or not Silva is linked with the jungle settlers. Put it down in the comments if you think they are. Give me your arguments. I'd love to hear them. And maybe we'll come to a consensus in a later, most likely very short video. So that's all for this episode. And I'll see you next time when I talk about probably another biome. Yeah, that was a lot of rambling at the end there. So thank you for making it to the end. If you like this or want to see more of these, I'll probably have a playlist on the right side of the screen. So yeah, do all those YouTube things, like, subscribe if you want to. I also play video games. I play Calamity. I have a yo-yo only playthrough I've been working on for a long time and will likely be working on for a long time in the future. So if you want to see those, you can hit that bell. And then yeah, I'll be back with another lore video whenever I get to it, because I am going to focus on my art channel for a while.